This meeting takes place at 1110 West Washington, Phoenix, Arizona, Suite 250. Thursday, September 10th, 2015, 637th Arizona Racing Commission meeting.
I will tell you that Mr. Feldmeyer is having trouble getting through. He's going to try to call me. I'm going to tell him to try to call in one more time. And if he can't, maybe I'll put him on my cell phone and put it on speaker or something. So. I think it's 10 o'clock, so I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we're going to have Mr. Bergen. Rudy, are you going to introduce yourself? Or?
I'll introduce myself. I'm going to be there for a few. I'm Dan Bergen. I'm the director of the Department of Gaming, and I wanted to introduce myself to you. This is the first meeting of the Racing Commission as part of the Department of Gaming, which is by virtue of the consolidation. I wanted to let you know that I have delegated for all intents and purposes, all the director authority to Rudy, so it will continue to be business as usual. I trust Rudy. I've worked with Rudy for a long time. He knows a great deal more about racing than I do at this point. And I think our objective is to keep this business as usual for you guys. Nevertheless, if there's a need to contact me, Cassie Goodwin has the contact information for you, and it's an open door if you need to contact me. And with that, I wanted to welcome you and thank you for allowing us to put your hearings together. Thanks.
Yeah, they said you can call in on the call-in number. Do you want to try that one more time? And if it doesn't work, call me back. All right. Well, you want me to put you on? All right, hang on. We got the IT account.
You want to put him on speaker and have him here?
That'd be fine.
Mr. Feldmeyer? I'm going to go ahead and put you on speaker.
Sorry.
We're going to have you right over here next to everybody else, okay? All right. Mr. Feldmeyer, are you there?
I'm here.
Perfect. All right, Mr. Feldmeyer, go right ahead and actually, can you count to 10 for me real quick?
You want me to count to what?
Never mind, we're good. Just want to make sure we can hear you.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall I go through that again for the benefit of the college? I'm Dan Bergen. I'm I'm the director of the Department of Gaming, and I wanted to welcome the commission to being part of our agency by virtue of the consolidation. This is the first meeting that the commission has had while part of the Department of Gaming. I wanted to let everybody know that we're intending to maintain business as usual for you. I've delegated all the director authority for all intents and purposes to Rudy Casillas. I work closely with Rudy. I have a great deal of faith in Rudy, and I think he's done a great job and will continue to do a great job. If you need to contact me, Cassie Goodwin has all of my contact information. You merely need to contact her. And other than that, I wanted to welcome you and hope that you have a great hearing today. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
All right.
Nice to have you. Nice to be part of your department.
Thank you.
Vicki, would you like to call the roll, please?
Mr. McClintock,
Here.
Mr. Lawless,
Here.
Mr. Heupel,
Here.
Mr. Garay, Mr. Garay, Mr. Feldmeyer.
Ooh, someone lost.
Right here.
Okay.
I think we lost Mr. Gray.
I think we lost Mr. Garay, but we have a quorum, and we'll see if we
Okay.
can get Mr. Garay back.
First item of business is to approve the minutes of the, by the way, I want to welcome everyone to the 637th regular meeting of the Arizona Racing Commission. We need to approve the minutes from the 635th. Does anybody have any questions? I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Now we need to approve the minutes of the 636th regular meeting held Thursday, June 11th, 2015. Any additions or corrections? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And now we need to approve the minutes from the executive session held on Thursday, June 11th, 2015. Any additions or corrections to that? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we got that done. Now, following new business items are for status report, presentation, discussion, and possible action for the commission. Item number 1 is a notice of appeal to the Arizona Racing Commission of Directors ruling to grant a racing license to Ron Sims. I think the first thing we're going to do is go into executive session and find out what our jurisdiction is over this matter, if any. Determined so far is that the commission does have the right to hear an appeal of the administrative law judge's decision. What we haven't determined is if Jerry Sims is an aggrieved party. So I'd like to give each side 5 minutes to explain why Jerry is or is not an aggrieved party to this decision. So, who should go first? Okay, so if Mr. Manning has something that he'd like to share with us.
Council, Commissioners, thank you for the time. I assume we're not going to be arguing today anything about the merits of the appeal.
No,
Is that correct? I can be pretty brief on the aggrieved party, aggrieved person. That's an important distinction. It's aggrieved person. Clearly, TP Racing is an aggrieved person, an entity in Arizona under the laws. A person is an entity, can be an entity. And you know, one of the things I was going to tell you in my argument with respect to the merits is, and you probably don't know this as a commission, but Ron Sims has moved the court, has sued in court to dissolve TP Racing, to get rid of it. The only thing you'd be a commissioners for is the Pima County County Fair meet, which is 5 or 6 days. So clearly, TP Racing is an aggrieved person with respect to this decision. Monstrously aggrieved by the decision to give this guy a license. This guy has been, Ron Sims that is, has been dissociated from TP Racing. He's no longer a partner. In fact, one of the things we'll talk to you about is how in the world do you give somebody a license that has no partnership interest, no ownership interest in a racing or a gaming matter. I mean, how do you give them a license? But that's off topic. But unless you have questions, I think it is plainly obvious, painfully obvious that TP Racing, with Mr. Ron Sims suing to get rid of racing in Arizona, is a terribly aggrieved person with respect to this decision. I don't really have much to add. I think it's awfully plain. Is there anything more you'd like to ask me?
No, that's it. That's what we wanted to hear.
Okay.
Mr. Grossman, would you like to give us your view of how this matter stands?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Marshall Grossman. I represent Ron Sims. With respect to the issue that the chair has posed, under the authorities, Jerry Sims is not an aggrieved party. He has, nor is TP Racing. They have not suffered any specific pecuniary damage as a result of the grant of a license to Ron Sims. Mr. Manning's only point is that in the litigation now pending, there is a claim for dissolution of TP Racing, and he claims that that is damaging to TP Racing. but let's put it in context. In that litigation, over a period of several months of hearings, over several days, over several months, the court heard evidence of claims that Jerry Sims had looted TP Racing of $2 million of TP Racing money, put it in his own pocket, cheating our client and cheating TP Racing. The court also heard evidence that Jerry Sims had acted outside of the scope of his authority as the managing partner of TP Racing by attempting to have TP Racing go into certain businesses. Two different judges heard two different applications for injunctions to enjoin Jerry Sims from continuing to engage in any activities in violation of the terms of the partnership agreement. And they each issued injunctions against Jerry Sims, prohibiting him from doing so. The second of the two injunctions reversed Jerry Sims attempting to name himself as the sole manager of TP Racing, and in effect, de facto expelling Ron from his limited consent rights in that business. So we have these two injunctions issued by the trial court, affirmed in material part by the Court of Appeal. And once those injunctions were issued, each side took different steps to protect their position. Jerry, unable to succeed in court, embarked upon a 2-year plan to deny Ron his racing license. And you obviously know that that happened and has been reversed or recommended for reversal by the administrative law judge. What Ron did was, because of the disarray within the management under Jerry of TP Racing, he included as one of his claims in the case for the dissolution of the company, not its termination, but for the dissolution of the partnership as such, so that he could reorganize it and restructure it and be free of whatever issues involved Jerry Sims, including, among other things, Ron wants to change or expand the scope of the business to casino gambling, which has been impossible to date because of Jerry's inability to get a gaming license. So rather than being an aggrieved party here, TP Racing has been the beneficiary of Ron's conduct in protecting TP Racing. 2 different trial court judges saw it that way. 6 different appellate court judges saw it that way. And the administrative law judge saw it that way too. Because what you have been treated to, and I'll quickly wrap this up, what you've been treated to in the papers filed before you is a scare campaign, accusing Ron of being a monster, a threat to racing, attempting to destroy this commission, disbanding this commission, lobbying the governor to, in effect, strip all powers of this commission. None of that is true. Charges easily made, none of that is true. And in fact, it was found absolutely false by the administrative law judge, who found no basis for any of the factual or legal conclusions in the notice of denial itself. And, as you probably know, Ron has recently been issued a new license under the auspices of the Department of Gaming and its racing division. He holds that license today. And presumably those good people within the department who conducted a fair investigation, free of outside influence from Jerry Sims or TP Racing or their counsel, thought enough of Ron Sims and the results of that investigation to issue him a new license. Jerry's aggrieved for only one thing. He claims it's going to economically hurt him. And I agree with that. It's going to economically hurt him because they have attempted to disassociate Ron, expel Ron from TP Racing without following any of the legal formalities, based solely upon the issuance of that now discredited notice of denial. And if Ron is successful, that disassociation will fail. What Ron is asking you to do here, basically, is what Jerry is asking you to do here, basically, is to help him in the civil case by strengthening their claim to expel Ron from TP Racing and leaving Jerry guarding the chicken house. Well, That's what they did the first time around successfully when the notice of denial was issued. And I presume you've had the opportunity of reading the very proper decision of the administrative law judge. And that administrative law judge found that that was illegal, invalid, and recommended its reversal. I would make one last point with leave of the commission. What Jerry has done here in response to this administrative law judge is to trash everybody involved in the process. Your esteemed lawyer, Mary DeLatte Williams, who handled the administrative law proceedings in a highly professional and competent manner, has been accused by Jerry in his filings with you of being incompetent because she did not call Bill Walsh to testify. It's highly likely that Bill Walsh did not want to testify because he asserted immunity to prevent himself from testifying, and he would have been questioned about his deletion of emails, his failure to comply with the Public Records Act, letting Mel McDonald co-draft the notice of denial with him. And if I were in Mary DeLatte Williams' position, I wouldn't have called Director Williams either. Jerry also accuses the judge of being incompetent, issuing a stupid, foolish decision. Well, I don't talk that way about judges. I can disagree with their decision. But to trash the judge, to trash Mary Williams, and to trash Ron, as I've just described, does not make Jerry an aggrieved person. The case law is very clear on that. We've included it in our briefing. And if the commission has any further questions, I'm happy to respond.
No questions?
I would ask a question of the chair, if I may.
Sure.
I heard the announcement that the commission believes that it has the right to hear the appeal. I'm concerned about that because we weren't given an opportunity of addressing the commission on that issue. I was led to believe that I'd have 7 minutes to address the issues that we've raised, and that was the first issue that I wish to raise. And I would ask the commission to give reconsideration to that issue so that we can present our position to you as to why we are satisfied that there is no jurisdiction, or at least urge that you do what the interim director Casillas did, and that is take no position on it. Don't get drawn into that fight. You have no stake in that fight. It's already been judicially resolved, and the parties will resolve it in court eventually one way or the other. So why should this commission invest the time, expense, and run the possible embarrassment of being on the wrong side of a very fundamental issue when it doesn't have to take a position? Sometimes making no action is the best decision anybody could make, and in this case I think it fits here.
All right, well, here's what the commission decided we'd like from both parties. Please, if you could put something in writing telling us why we should or shouldn't hear this matter, and why, really, we want to know why Mr. Sims is an aggrieved party. Keep it brief, please, because nobody's had time to read the 111 pages yet. 1,111, or whatever it is. We'd like to have it by Thursday, the 24th of September, by 5 p.m., so it can be disseminated on Friday, so we can study it before our next meeting on October 8th. And once we get the Office of Administrative Hearings decision, then we'll decide whether to have a hearing and where to go from here.
Mr. Chairman, that is very much appreciated, and we will gladly take advantage of the opportunity, and that time period is acceptable to us.
Can we limit the size of the
Well, we'd like to limit it to 10
We don't
pages
want
or
11.
less if we could.
Your Honor, you are our honor today. Normally I see people with black robes, but I'm visualizing those robes. After 50 years, I see everybody in a black robe. We'll limit it to 10 pages. On each of the two issues, 10 pages on each of the two issues, or 20 pages total.
No.
10 total?
10 on each, it would be wonderful.
We will take the time to make it short.
All right, great.
Thank you so much.
Is that okay with you, Mr. Manning?
Yes, I didn't use all of my 5, and he used more than 5, so I just have a couple things I'd like to do. First of all, clarification, I understand one of the issues is whether or not Jerry is an aggrieved person, correct?
Right, that's what we really want to determine.
Whether they're standing is what we're trying to
For
do.
Jerry?
Right.
Okay. I assume you don't have that question with respect to TP Racing as an aggrieved person.
Well, I would brief it in the 10 pages.
Okay. What is the second issue for the second 10 pages? I wasn't clear on that.
Jurisdictional.
Jurisdictional, okay.
We've determined that we do have jurisdiction to hear the appeal. And
Would you like to-
counsel, Mr. Ron Sims' counsel does not particularly agree with that, so we'd like that briefly.
Fair enough. I just want to make a couple points with the rest of my time, equal time. You know, this is typical of Ron Sims and his counsel. You just heard that Ron now has a license right now. As you all know, I assume you've read the papers, he doesn't have a license right now. He has a conditional temporary license pending this appeal. So these are the kind of representations or misrepresentations that you can expect, and you just heard some. Second one today is that they're not suing to dissolve TP Racing, they just want to reorganize it. Well, let me, with your permission, may I hand you a slide we were going to use today. Counsel?
Jeez, watch.
Look at this. That's his count 31. He wants to dissolve racing in Arizona and sell TP's assets. To stand up here and say that he just wants to reorganize TP Racing was a bald-faced lie. You're going to see more of that as time goes on. And two other real quick points with respect, we're going to brief this issue as you have instructed us to do, but our brief, and I'm sorry for its length, pages 9 through 12, goes through the jurisdictional issues. Finally, with respect to Jerry individually, as opposed to TP Racing, this ALJ decision makes horrific statements against Jerry Sims, basically saying that he conspired with Bill Walsh, Mel McDonald, the governor's office. The list of conspirators goes on, and you'll be on it one day too if you don't do the decision Ron wants you to do. But the conspiracy is broad as is rulings against Ron. Jerry is accused in this ALJ decision of conspiring unlawfully to deny Ron a license. This is in the opinion. He is an aggrieved person almost as much as TP Racing is. Unless you have any further questions, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, I guess we'll look forward to seeing your briefs. The second item of business is the Yuma County request for racing dates in 2016 and 17. Yuma County has requesting approval of the following race dates for 2016 and 17 at Turf Paradise. Yuma County has submitted a signed agreement with Turf Paradise for these dates: March 19th, 20th, 26th, and April 2nd, 2016. March 18th, 19th, 25th, and 26th, 2017. And they have some pending dates for 2018, 19, and 20. But I think we're only going to approve the 16 and 17 dates. Are there any questions, or does anybody want to say anything about Yuma County's racing dates? Well, I'd entertain a motion to approve these dates.
I move we approve the Yuma County Fair dates as described by the chair.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, so the motion is approved. Then the third item is a request for a new off-track betting facility, the Nest Sports Grill. The application, the Nest is at 5134th North 75th Avenue in Glendale. Their application looks complete. Does anyone have any questions, or would anyone like to say anything about the Nest as an OTB site? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the Nest.
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed that information. It appears everything is in order, and I move for approval.
Second.
So, all right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. The Nest is an OTB. The fourth item for business is TP Racing LLLP's consideration for a permit for 3 years, 2016, 17, and 18. They've been investigated. We have an attachment or a copy of the investigation by, I believe, Mr. Honk. Is that correct? That's correct. And is he here?
I do not believe so.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to review the recommendation? And does anyone have any questions about that?
I have a question. In light of a lot of moving parts that are going on currently with the Sims, is there any reason we have to approve that today? And could we put it off a month or two till we really get our arms around some of the issues? Does it affect opening racing in October?
Well, what you could do is,
A temporary permit until such time?
yes,
Well, I see the issues as totally distinct. I mean, TP Racing is getting a license, and who the players end up being is a separate issue to me. I think we ought to follow the recommendation and go ahead and approve today.
Yeah, I can't approve it at this time. I would really like to see a temporary approval. I think there are more issues that need to be addressed. I'd really like to hear the safety report and where we are there. I know there's some issues, and Mr. McClintock is going to be appointing a committee to review some issues with the breeders in the HPPA. I'd like to see where we are on that. I just think the turf has operated under a permit or a temporary permit for 2 years prior to this last year's approval. I don't see what a month or two could do unless it affects racing. And so I move to postpone the decision on the permit 2 months in the November, well, that would be the October-November meeting, which is item B, new business, item 4.
Do we have a second? Or any more? We have a
I will
motion.
second that, Mr. Chairman. But I would like to ask a question attached to that. I would, if it's all right.
Sure.
Well, I don't want to necessarily get locked into November. If it takes to December to get this cleared out, I mean, I'm all right with that.
Okay.
Why don't we aim for November, and we can always postpone it again at that time if all the materials Mr. Heupel would like to see aren't in.
So
Understood.
we have a motion that's been moved and seconded that we postpone deciding on Turf Paradise's permit renewal until November. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
No. All right, it carries. It's 3-2. Now we're ready for some informational reports. The Turf Paradise Safety Report. Mr. Thompson.
How are you today?
Good.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. In an effort to give you a more comprehensive report on the safety issues at Turf Paradise and also Tucson Greyhound Park, in your package you should have a pretty in-depth report on the issues that we went through during the summer and listed as things that needed to be taken care of by Turf Paradise. Gary Bays, who was a safety steward working for us, no longer works for us. He's with the Washington State Racing Commission now. So I've assigned Mr. Juan Estrada as the safety steward to continue this process at Turf Paradise. So I'm going to let him come up and explain the points of interest related to the report.
All right, thanks.
Also, the next report will be the Tucson Greyhound report, and then I'm going to have Mr. Dan Reinerson, who's the chief steward, report on that.
Okay. Thanks, Nolan.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Casillas. I'm here to point out the steward report. The report contains items such as things that need corrections, recommendations to fix. Most of these items pertain to things that will influence the health and safety of the welfare of the equine licensees. With that said, I want to point out that Turf Paradise have been working with me. Everything that I've asked for them to correct, they have touched. Most of these, I gave them deadlines. Looks like they're way ahead of their deadlines. I'm pretty sure that before opening day, most of these items will be completed. One point I would like to bring up is the lighting system, which I'm pretty sure was brought up in a previous commission meeting. The lighting system was tested on August 17th during night hours. I believe it's adequate lighting that they have provided now. So that I'll touch. There's other items I would like to touch up on. Barn roofing. There was a lot of barns which roofs were in disrepair. Those have been touched and corrected. There's still a few that need to be corrected, but I'm sure they'll get to them. The air conditioning in the grandstand area, which we received complaints about. Yesterday, I personally myself walked around the area. The temperature was within adequate for the patrons. It was hard for me to judge whether the air conditioning was unoperational or not. There was fans in motion, which leads me to think that they need to correct that issue. The cooling system in the test barn that is operated by our department veterinarian, that needs to be repaired, which I was informed as well that they're in the process of installing new units for that to correct that issue. And again, Turf Paradise continues to touch up with any concerns that I present to them. I have no complaints or any concerns that I'm sure they will correct the problems that I present to them.
What was addressed on the lighting, just out of curiosity? What were new lights added?
They added new lights throughout the track, which eliminate about 90% better than what they had in place before.
The track and the backside?
The main track, the backside, it will be checked on September 17th.
Okay. Good.
All right.
Okay.
questions, Kelly?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Stroud. Next item is the Tucson Greyhound Park inspection update. So, Mr. Ryerson.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Racing Commission members, Director Casillas. My name is Dan Reinertsen. I've been the chief steward for the department since 2007, and I was hired back in 1999. Mr. Casillas has asked me to report some of the issues that I've had at Tucson Greyhound Park. And there's probably three main ones, and then I realized another one due to the rain and stuff that Tucson has had. My major concern is their holding kennel. This has become a issue lately because earlier this year Tucson started running 18 races, and that's the capacity of their kennel. Before, it wasn't the capacity of their kennel, and we could take dogs that were crates that were getting wet, we could move them to other places. We can't move any dogs anywhere anymore. And that's why, if you remember, I reported this back in February of this year and have continuously reported it, and it is really a major issue. And I think it has caused one day of racing at least, and maybe some issues on another day that were temporarily resolved. I gave Tucson Greyhound Park a deadline, and they did not meet that deadline. So and another thing, one of the other things that I had was their infield. When the track surfaces go to the infield, it builds up the infield and makes it higher than the rail. So a lot of times the rail becomes the draining point for the water to go. And sometimes we have to wait several minutes before they bail the water out of the infield. And what I've asked them to do is get a front end loader and remove quite a bit of dirt because it's substantially higher in the middle, and it just causes for all kinds of delays. I did notice yesterday after I walked the track they have dug some trenches around, but that's just going to make it for more drainage to come to a bigger part now. They have found some drains that they didn't know existed, and they have opened those up. But what I would like for them to do is remove quite a bit of dirt from the infield. And then there was an issue with dogs entering the rail. What Tucson Greyhound Park has done is they raised the rail up 6 inches from the bottom, and they have made it pretty measurable around the whole track. So they have improved that for the safety of the greyhounds entering the inside of the track. But one issue that they did not address was their braking area. I had a conversation with Mr. Pop, and he said that the rail was gauged all the way around the track with the exception of the braking area, which is where all the equipment to stop the lure. So it's a lot heavier in that area, and in past it has collapsed. And what they did is they made braces that extended out from the rail, and there for a while dogs were running under that rail. The ones that did gain entrance to the middle of the track were running under these rails. They have since blocked it off on both ends so they can't run under it. But one of these days we're going to have an issue with that area being rusted out, of it falling again. And I'll let Dale answer any questions he has for you, but It's rusted, so that's why they didn't gauge that part of the rail. And it's going to be an issue one of these days, and it could even cause a no race. And the thing that I did add, and I didn't add it into your thing, in the past I have said the grandstands were okay and it wasn't leaking. Due to, they've had severe rains, and I will say that the storms that have happened in Tucson, to their benefit, have happened overnight before the races or after the races. So they've been pretty lucky, with the exception of two performances. But on September 4th, I did walk the grandstands, and the buckets are back, and they're collecting rainwater from the grandstand area. So those were the main concerns that I had for the public and the animals. So if you all have any questions for me, please.
Thanks, Dan. I don't. Rory, do you have any questions? Are you still with us?
No.
Okay. No questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for your report. All right, and now Dr. Waterman's going to give us an injury report analysis. This is fast season at Turf Paradise, I assume.
Actually, no.
Okay. I should, you know what assume is.
Yeah, I don't want to go there with that, but you know what it means.
Yeah.
Scott Waterman, Division of Racing. Director Casillas asked me to begin the process of analyzing the injury data that we've been collecting over really the past 2 years at Tucson Greyhound Park. The first year we collected it on our own, sort of as a proactive measure to make it publicly available. The second year of the data has been collected under a mandate in the law. And that's where this data comes from. We get reports submitted to us by the track veterinarians at Tucson Greyhound Park. We collect that and collate it and make it publicly available on the department website. But we've reached sort of a critical mass. We now have 2 years of this data. While we're meeting the mandate of the law by making it publicly available, we also have a mandate to protect the health and welfare of the racing animals in the state. So the idea was, can we look at this data now? Can we analyze it and determine whether or not there are any specific actions that we can take as a department or Tucson Greyhound Park can take to reduce the number of injured dogs? And the report that you have in your packet, it's not 1,000 pages, but it's 14 pages at least. It's lengthy, it's detailed, it has a lot of charts, it has a lot of statistics, but it represents our first sort of stab at trying to learn what the injuries are, what the correlations are between these injuries and certain statistical things like the age of the dog, the grade of the race, the distance of the race, sort of taking our cue from the National Equine Injury Database that's been started on the thoroughbred racing side. They've had enormous success in collecting data over a long period of time and being able to identify specific risk factors that put a horse at risk for injury. The idea was, can we copy that with the data that we have to see if we can identify dogs that are at risk of injury? So the report sort of broken down into 2 sections. The first section was really designed to try to better understand the injuries themselves. What types of injuries are we seeing? How often do they occur? What's the likelihood that the dog can return to racing after he's suffered that particular type of injury? How long of a recovery period does the dog need before he can return to racing with that specific type of injury? And then also, too, with 2 years of data, we can now start benchmarking individual months against the overall average. And we've been able to do that with a trend line analysis that you'll see in some of the graphs. And I think sort of the take-home lesson of this section of the report is that the actual rate of injury as it's measured as a percentage of starts, which I think is the most accurate way of looking at this, appears to be holding somewhat steady over a 2-year period. The trend line may be slightly higher, but I'm not sure it's a statistically significant elevation over time. There is a lot of variability, though, month to month, but the trend line is relatively stable. The other thing that really stands out is that there is a particular type of injury that we see at fairly high rates that is almost always career-ending for the dog, and that's the fracture of the right rear hock. It accounts, just pulled this just to give you an idea of the specifics, but fractures involving the right rear hock account for 72% of all of the fractures reported, 38% of all the injuries that are career-ending for the dog, and 21% of all injuries. So that is a specific type of injury that I'm hoping that we can zero in, and then the second part of the report is sort of an analysis of that specific type of injury compared to the grade of the race, compared to the distance of the race, trying to learn more about the occasions in which a dog fractures its right rear hock. And then can we do anything about it if we find a positive correlation in these things? And that analysis is very much ongoing. What you have is, again, sort of a first step. I will say that when you read the report, you'll find that we've not been able to identify, for instance, dogs racing at a longer distance are more predisposed to a fractured right rear hock than dogs racing at a shorter distance. Dogs racing at a higher grade are no more likely to fracture right rear hock than dogs racing at lower grades. So we're learning things about these injuries sort of as we look at each individual metric, and we will continue to do that. The other nice thing is it's living and breathing. There are now 2 more months of data since this report has been written that we can kind of continue to plug in and play with and look with the ultimate goal of finding something that we hope can help prevent injuries.
Great.
So with that, any questions?
Doctor, just out of curiosity, what part of the leg is a hawk?
I think, dogs are hard to sort of make the analogy, but just above your ankle, basically.
Okay, thank you.
More or less. Any other questions?
Not for me. Roy? Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Dr. Casillas, do we have that same type of report for for Turf Paradise and the horses?
At this time, we do not. That's next on our list.
Okay, now we have an update on permits and process.
Mr. Stiles.
Commissioners, my name is Greg Stiles. I'm with the Department of Gaming. We have several permits that are in the process of being identified. You not only saw the Turf Paradise one today, but we also have Relito, which has been declared administratively complete, but there's a special situation on that. Now that Jay Wells elaborated on that, is that the racetrack still does not have a lease from the county, so they're working on that as well. In the future, it looks like there's a lot of interest in some of the county fairs running in 2016, having the Memorial de Compass finals. Right now, it looks like they're looking at Douglas, Safford, Sonoyta, and Duncan. So they're looking at maybe doing that starting first part of April all the way through May, which will return racing to a lot of the rural communities in the celebration. I see that as very positive for the industry. Also in the future, the 3 ADWs, Twin Spires, ExpressBet, and TVG will be up for renewal. They've already got their applications. I expect them to be in real shortly. So that is my 2,000-page report.
That's great.
Thank you.
All right. Racing regulatory and legal fees discussion. I don't know who's discussing that.
Who's discussing that, yes. I don't know if anybody wanted an update on that,
Well,
or why.
yeah, is that the RWA increase that we're?
Well, let me just touch on that. The commission previously agreed and approved to the RWA increase from 0.60 to 0.85 through October 31st. Then it reverts back down.
Mr. Chairman, I'm having a very difficult time hearing.
Okay.
And it's the speaker system that's causing it. At this point, with the fact that we're hopefully getting rid of the space next door, and the division will no longer be obligated to pay that rent, I'm going to give it through the first of the year to re-examine our budget and make some determinations as to whether or not the RWA has to be modified. But at that time, I will notify the commission as far as our review and where we stand with the budget.
But it will drop off as of the end of October 31.
November 1st.
November 1st.
Go back to 0.6. And regarding legal fees, the department was experiencing budgetary problems due to legal expenses and attorney's fees, which I think everybody's well aware of. A few months back, I contacted risk management with the state government, asked for some financial assistance, which they were very willing to assist the department with. They made some payments for those legal fees and kind of got us out of financial crisis. So right now we're okay.
Good. That's good news. All right, the next item is an update on the subcommittee that Chairman McClintock appointed to discuss the Breeders' Awards. Thank you, Bill, for asking for that. I initially decided that we'd have a 7-person committee. Somebody from the breeders, somebody from the industry, somebody from Turf Paradise, somebody from this department, 2 members of the Racing Commission, because that's all that could be on it without violating the open meeting law. And I don't know if I said somebody from the public or not, but right now, the very most interested parties, I've talked to 7 or 8 people who I think are intelligent members of the betting public. They didn't have any interest in this. Kevin Owens is interested, Jerry Sims is interested, and Lloyd Yother are interested, all for very important reasons. So I don't know, originally Rory was going to be on it because he represents the dog racing community, and Dave Heupel because he represents the horse racing community. I've kind of come to the conclusion that maybe I can be on it because I'm the chairman and because I've been on the commission the longest, and I'll represent the dog interest, and because Dave is a new member who represents the horsemen, I'd like to have him on it, but make sure that he gets up to speed on exactly what he needs to know to represent the horsemen the best way he can. So we have not had a meeting. I know there have been some meetings between the HBPA, the Horsemen, the track, the HBPA. I don't know if they've ever had a joint meeting, but Mr. Sims was in California for 3 months, so he wasn't able to meet. I've been in and out of town. I know Lloyd's been in and out of town. So hopefully we can start having some meetings. I asked Greg to be on it, but he's been busy with the combining of the two departments, and I think he has a lot more. I really think the interested parties are Kevin, Lloyd, and Jerry, and I think it's kind of up to them. I know I've talked to Lloyd and Jerry, and they both seem to be willing to have their lobbyists meet with the legislature to try to get the original grant of $1.2 million back. I think that's where we are. We're working, obviously there are lots of things going on right now, but one of the items we need to get is the Breeders' Award reinstated. So that's kind of a long way of saying we haven't done a whole lot yet. But now that the meet's getting ready to start and everybody's back in town, hopefully we'll be able to get everybody together and discuss this. I know there are probably questions and comments, so I'll give you guys a chance to say something if you want to.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my hope was that during the time that between this legislature signing died and then they reconvene again next January, that we could come up with some kind of a proposal to be submitted to the legislature, which would hopefully improve the financial status of the industry as a whole. So as long as we can meet, hopefully, and come up with something like that to introduce to the next session, it sure meets my criteria.
Okay, well that's our goal. And I do know that the track and the Horsemen are both working through their lobbyists to, at least they're working with the legislators, trying to float the idea. I don't know if any written proposal has been agreed on. In fact, I'm sure it hasn't, but that's something that maybe Kevin and Lloyd and Jerry could get together and discuss and come up with some plan to propose to the legislature. Kevin's at the podium and he'd like to say something now, so please.
Hi, Kevin Owens, Arizona Thoroughbred Breeders Association. First off, we're talking about breeders' issues, and you're talking about the track and the Horsemen are pushing breeders' issues, but why is there no inclusion with the breeders? Our lobbyist has not been talked to about this. Second off, the path they keep wanting to go down has slammed the door on us several times. We originally had the $800,000, legislature took it away. We had $250,000, legislature took it away. They threw another item on trying to pass this 1.2 that they're talking about, and we were line item down. We keep going down the same road and getting the same results, and the industry is dying day by day. So I think we need to get the interested parties together. We need to open our minds up to, figuring out different ways to do this, because what we've been trying is not working. And I don't believe in this current legislature, with as much money as the states are suing the state for, as many other interests other than horse racing are out there, you're going to get a legislator to find a reason to fund the breeders. I've been open all summer to meetings. There's been a few meetings haven't been included. I don't know how you have meetings for breeders' issues and the president of the Breed Association isn't a party to it. I guess that's really all I've got to say. It just seems like we're going down a path that has never rewarded us.
All right.
Kevin, can I address one thing? I believe if you look in your, wasn't an email, but it was a text. And I'm going to say it was several months ago, I had asked you if you would like me to set up a meeting with Mr. Sims and I think it was either Lloyd or Tom Metzen from the HBPA, and I never heard a response back from you. So I want to do something.
Well, I
want to get
understand.
everybody together.
I understand that.
And asked you to respond, and I didn't get a response.
Okay, I'm sorry if you didn't get a response, but
Okay.
I have talked to Jay over the summer too, and
Okay.
and told
And
him
you and I have talked
and
over
I
the
told you
summer.
that I'm available anytime.
Yeah. Mr. Sims was out of town. I was traveling. Mr. McClintock, I believe, was traveling. Now we're all here. And it's time to get together.
Yeah, we all travel over the summer,
Yeah,
but I was still available.
Yeah.
okay. Well, we'll get.
I mean, if we don't get something solved, I think through this legislative season, one way or another, breeders are done in the state. You've got too many breeders that are shipping too many horses out of state to take advantage of other states' breeding programs, and they're deserting. And, you know, you could look at another, 400 to 500 horses on the racetrack with a healthy breeding program. Racetracks are constantly looking for horses, and there's nothing being done to feed the vein that feeds them.
All right, well, hopefully Lloyd and Jerry, I can get a commitment from you guys to sit down sometime or stand up sometime.
I'm Lloyd Joseph, president of Arizona Horseman HPPA. We have been working on an issue, and I would like to clarify, or not clarify, but to make a statement that I represent. Tom Metzen's our executive director. We represent the horsemen of Arizona. That includes breeders and everyone. We reach out to the parties that are interested to get together, and we have met a couple of times over the summer, and like everybody says, it's been difficult because so many people traveling. But we have reached out to several individuals over the summer and are working on numerous positions that we can take and how we can go about helping to breed. So I represent all the horsemen, whether they're breeders or not breeders or whatever. And if any party is interested, then I would like to know about it, that they are interested, and we'll include them. So no one was left out intentionally.
Who was included in those meetings?
Breeders, primarily. I don't know if Kevin was invited to the meeting or not. There was no formal invitation. There's just phone calls made to Fleming, Ralph Fales with the quarter horses, Bill Matthews, and Dr. Santorum was there. And those are the guys that are showing the most interest, and we're at that meeting, and we had a productive meeting, but we're still trying to figure the avenues that we can take to make things better.
Is there a representative from that group that should be included in this subcommittee?
Well, I'm sure Kevin would more than likely be.
Well, no, okay. Kevin, I think is.
Yeah.
Oh, so he was part of the...
But I mean, that's the only breeders that are left other than backyard breeders. I mean, everybody's moved on. I mean, and the problem is, when and this is not if, this is when everybody keeps losing interest and there's no money and nothing done, horse racing goes to hell and then there's no more.
Right. So we need to revive the breeding industry.
Absolutely. Without a breeding program, racing won't exist. I don't care where you're at.
Yeah.
How good the program is, it depends on the breed program. Or how good the state is, depends on the breed program.
I agree. I think we're all in agreement with that.
Okay. Any other questions? I'm willing to meet with anybody and talk anytime. And our legislator, our lobbyists, we're working on that on a regular basis. And we've got some things and got more meetings in plan too. So hopefully we can come to a solution before. And time is of the essence, obviously. And we've got to get all this done before if we're going through the legislature, but we're looking at other avenues as well. But if we're going through the legislature, we've got to get it ready.
Good.
Any other questions?
No questions, but please include Kevin, and I'd like to come to the meetings too.
That's what
Be glad to.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lloyd. All right, now we're ready for the committee reports. American Greyhound Racing.
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Dan. County Fairs. Hi.
Good morning. I greet you from Cochise County. We're so happy to be here. My name is Sharon Denham. I'm president of the ACRA. I have been the race chairman at Cochise County Fair Association for almost 20 years now. Also a breeder. Can I give a commercial? Thoroughbreds, quarter horses, very fine stock, and we're still there. But as an aside from ACRA, because I am a breeder, I definitely want to be a second and a third with Kevin and Lloyd on that comment about the breeders. The last 10 years have been brutal for us. And if it weren't for the fact that we don't have a mortgage on the place, and that's really the reason that we're still where we are. But to be able to think about bringing someone else into this state at this point in time to become a breeder of racehorses is a far from conclusion to failure. That's not going to happen. We are very, very much interested at ACRA in this very same issue and would certainly welcome an opportunity to sit with this group as well, because we think we represent horsemen from all over the state, not just in the certain areas. And there are some horsemen out there that really would like to take this on, but because of the financial risk involved, they're simply not going to be doing it. But we're interested, and we would like to be a part of that if we can be.
Okay.
Let me move on with this. We have 9 member counties out of 15 that are currently members of ACRA. The purpose of the reorganization of ACRA in 2013 was to revive county fair horse racing for all the member counties that currently have viable tracks. Now, we have a lot of member counties that are actually members, but it's to their benefit to do that, because if they're able to contract dates to the commercial tracks, then even without tracks, it's a benefit to be a member of ACRA. And we encourage counties to do that. It helps the county revenue. I am sure that many of you will recall that when the decision was made to cut out funding for county fair racing, the governor indicated that these funds would be reinstated within 3 years. That intention was never fulfilled. And to add insult to injury, Governor Brewer struck out the county fair funding from SB 1282. To my knowledge, there was never a plausible reason for her actions. If there were, it never got to our level. Senator Pearson carefully constructed a section of that bill which could have provided a fresh start for county fair racing, but that was not to be. However, ACRA has remained committed to our original goal. In January, ACRA opened a series of conversations with a group from Tucson, the El Modo de Compas Foundation. This newly formed group is a nonprofit foundation affiliated with the Southwest Folk Life Initiative, a 501c3 nonprofit organization based at the University of Arizona. These discussions opened our thinking towards a new private-public model for funding county fair horse racing. As a result of hundreds of hours of planning sessions with city and county governments, other nonprofits, fair associations, and a large group of horsemen, we are pleased to announce a new affiliation of county fair associations in Cochise and Santa Cruz counties and county governments in Graham and Greenlee counties that will have a total of 4 weekends of racing, 2 days at each track. You gentlemen will be approving those permits, hopefully, at the October meeting. Santa Cruz has already been granted for their 2016 permit. Cochise and Graham are pending for October. Greenlee may also be ready for the permit to be granted in October. And I also want to mention that Gila County has contacted ACRA for assistance in moving toward opening their track as well. County fair racing is back.
That's great.
For the cooperative spirit that we have experienced this past year involving all of these previously mentioned connections, has been a major ingredient in moving us along this quickly. As we have moved forward with the project, we became impressed by the desire of the local businesses and governments to revive racing due to the negative impact that they have experienced both in business revenue and tax revenues when county fair racing stopped. Those 4 days of outside revenues that impacted those small rural communities was significant, but no one realized how significant they were until racing was gone. So significant that 2 years ago, the Cochise County Fair Association manager and I were asked by the city manager of Douglas and numbers of business people in the Douglas area to please start horse racing again. So as a result of this revelation, our public and private coalition is directing attention to creating economic development strategies to reflect the revenue-producing aspects of a horse racing event in our rural areas. The City of Douglas, for example, ACRA, the Cochise County Fair Association, and the El Moro Foundation have recently entered into an arrangement to pursue an economic development project with the local horse racing track becoming the cornerstone of the project. Local cultural and historical attractions will be included in a promotional campaign for the project, aimed at local tourism for each of our track communities and our counties. We are looking forward to providing you with additional information regarding this project in the months to come, but it is in Tuesday we were in Safford and met with Board of Supervisors in Safford, produced this plan to them. We were there for 2 hours, answered hundreds of questions, and we're on our way to Greenlee on the 23rd for a meeting with their Board of Supervisors as well to post this same project that we've already put together in Douglas. We appreciate the information and the cooperation that ACRA has received since the reorganization of the Department of Racing. I particularly want to thank Greg Stiles for all of his help and his support. He's been great helping us through this process. Arizona County Fair Racing is making a genuine comeback, and we believe we are bringing new ideas and new energy to many areas of Arizona. We welcome your input and thank you very much for your assistance. And if you have questions for me, I will be glad to answer them.
I don't have a question, but I'd like to make a comment. It makes me think about our past commissioner, Bert Krugler, who loved the county fairs and couldn't wait till you guys came back. So Bert will be happy. We are all happy.
Please pass our greetings and muchas gracias to Bert. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your report. Rito. Jay?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Jay Wells, I'm the president of the Rito Park Foundation and also Rito Racing. We've had quite a summer. I think that most of you know we finished our first year of actually producing the racing at Rito Racetrack, invested some $300,000 plus into the facility under the 3-year lease agreement that we had with Pima County. And part of that agreement was that the county would reimburse us for all non-racing related repairs to the facility, as well as we had to agree to let them relocate the barns from the west end to the east end and to make room for 3 additional soccer fields, which we supported. As a member of the foundation, our goal is to have the entire park be a multicultural and multi-diverse community asset and not just soccer or just horse racing, which, if you probably know through the history, has been the big loggerhead fight there. We did come up with a multi-use plan that the county accepted, and at the end of the meet, after we completed our live meet, but before we closed out our dark days, the county came to us and said they had no funding for re-erecting the barns on the east end of the track. Clearly that was a trouble, and at the same time we had just paid them some $60,000 in rent. So we were put into limbo, but when handed lemons make lemonade, and in the long run this actually opened up for us to negotiate a 5-year lease with the county. We have been in constant negotiations with them for the summer. As of yesterday morning, Annette Slusser, as a result of a meeting on Tuesday, issued a memorandum which I shared with Ms. Stiles, where that is now going to the county attorneys and our attorneys for a vote, hopefully the latter part of October. She stipulated that it would be no later than the first county supervisor meeting, but what it'll basically do is give us some longevity. And this year-by-year stuff was tying our hands, not only for philanthropic gifts. Clearly, no one wants to help give us money to build barns if there's only a one-year lease, but also the marketing side of it. So we have been blessed to have what comes along with being a commercial track, and that is the share that Turf Paradise and the dog track share with Rito Park for the Pima County wagering. But as well as we've been a beneficiary of a $250,000 a year grant from the Martin Foundation. We've received 2 years of it. That got us going. The third year will be in next May. We'll receive that additional sum. And so the idea to be able to work with some of our business partners to make long-term marketing contracts, advertising contracts, but will let us build purses. Let us make some improvements to the facility, and the trade-off with the county is that the Rito Park will actually convert into a Pima County attraction. What that means is, like the Desert Museum or Pima County Air and Space or Pima County Fairgrounds, in fact that latter example is the template for our agreement. It's $10 a year. We will pay no rent to the county. Basically, we are able to make private contracts for not just construction and renovation projects, but for any type of maintenance, marketing contracts, etc. So that is going to basically take the track out of its long-term stranglehold and give us the opportunity to see if it'll really work. That is a huge move, and we are grateful that Pima County was willing to listen to our proposal. And as I said, as of yesterday morning, in fact, I still don't quite believe it, but having said that, it looks like it is moving forward. We've kept Mr. Stiles apprised of the fact that our permit process was in limbo due to these lease negotiations, but we do think that that's turned the corner. I did share the documentation with him, and so if you're interested in that, you can do that. I'll provide that to you, or you can ask him any questions. Anything for me?
No, I just wanted to say I'm particularly happy the way you guys worked with the U of A racetrack industry program, and I hope that relationship will continue this year.
It has flourished. As a matter of fact, they have actually built into their curriculum 2 courses through their business department at the racetrack management program. And in essence, one of them is an analysis of the financials, and the second is where the students, and for those of you who aren't familiar with the program, I mean, we're talking about some typical college-age kids, but a lot of the people that are in the program are actually second career people. And so there's some expertise in financial statistics, et cetera, that we rely on. As a matter of fact, Mr. Chairman, you might consider the University of Arizona as a source for the Breeders' Awards. They have been a great source for us to get benchmark numbers, et cetera. None of us in the foundation side of it had a long history in horse racing, so that has been instrumental in being a big benefit for us. So I would just suggest that you might reach out to Doug Reed of that department and see if they can be of some service. Their ties to the racing industry nationally is huge. And it always is a bit of a surprise to me how little underutilized they are here in Arizona for our horse racing industry. So I would remind you that they can be a great service.
I think that's a great idea. In fact, Kevin suggested that to me, and I neglected to mention that earlier, but that's something we would like to have them involved in.
Yeah. I was actually at the University of Arizona last week, and Doug told me that he got a call that Bob Baffert is actually going to attend the Utah game. So there's a reason to go to Tucson if you want to see Bob and congratulate him. And we're trying our best to get him to come over and do some signature signings, etc., on behalf of Rito Park. But we think that this is a segue to the future that we've been working for. It's been a tough road. It's been frustrating, and because of the history and the contention that existed at Rito Park, there were lots of walls that shouldn't have been still stood that did, and we're knocking them down. We're excited about the opportunity. A long way to go. I want to make clear that we are in that tipping point to where the future could be ours, or I know we've had a lot of backlash just recently from some of the folks that wanted horse racing to go away, but our job is to make sure that flourishes. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay. Dale, Tucson Greyhound.
Good morning, or afternoon now. Dale Pop, Tucson Greyhound Park. Just want to take a few minutes, if I could, and address some of the issues that we're facing at Tucson Greyhound Park regarding repairs. Obviously, the track has been there for a long time. I inherited a lot of problems that existed before I got there, and we are trying to deal with these as time and money permits. Got actually three main issues that we're kind of dealing with right now in regards to coordinating with the state. The break area where the lure actually stops, that has been extended. You didn't notice it? The extension was put on that. So now all the way around the entire track, the opening has been closed to a 9-10 inch gap that protects the animals better. So that issue has been addressed. I'll point it out tomorrow. The biggest issue we've had has been the paddock roof where we house the dogs. You may not know the procedure. All of the dogs are brought in at the same time, basically 5:30. All of the dogs are put in the cages. As they race, they come from the cages, go to the track, and then they go back to the respective kennel. So there is a period that we're filled up as far as the crates that are available, which a race takes basically 9 minutes with the post-parade, if there is one. The point I'm getting at is from the time we're completely full until the time we have room to be able to move a dog if we need to, is approximately 25, 35 minutes at the most. We're kind of filled up for 30 minutes. So, but the point I'm getting at, originally the owners of the track thought that this paddock roof where the dogs are housed had been replaced basically 6 years ago when they had a fire. Well, it took a little bit of time to make them understand that no, this hasn't been fixed. This roof is very old. I now have gotten the approval to spend the money to get the roof fixed. That happened July 7th. Well, the state has been fantastic. Mr. Reinertson has been fantastic in working with us, whatever instance happens to come up, and I do appreciate that. But at a certain point, we were 3 weeks away from roofing work, and they are starting on it this Monday, a few days from now, so that's a good thing. But at a certain point, Mr. Reinertson alerted us, that's it, we're not working with you anymore. Any rain falls in the paddock area, we're shutting it down. Well, I kind of had a little bit of a meltdown and did apologize after the fact. A little bit frustrated knowing that we're that close to not just fixing, but replacing the roof. And we're now going to possibly lose a performance, which will obviously make us go backwards as far as generating revenue to fix things. Not good for the trainer. So I was a little bit frustrated and had a little bit of a meltdown, which, again, apologize for later. But anyway, short story, paddock roof is, all goes well, knock on wood, whatever you want to use to describe it, Monday should happen. Should be a 2-day process, so hopefully this will not be an issue going forward. Another issue, and again, all of these items that we are in discussion with Mr. Reinertson and the state, they're true. The place needs a lot of work. But I can't, money-wise, time-wise, I don't have the staff and the facility to be able to fix it all right now. So I have to ask for patience. Believe me, there's nobody at our facility that wants to make things better than the way we found them than I do. But again, problems didn't happen overnight. Been neglected for a while. It's going to take a little while to get it back in shape. So if you will, please be patient. Work with me, and I guarantee you it'll be better the next meeting than it was this meeting. So, but we're on the same page. Mr. Reinertson, we both want the same thing. The safety of the animals is number one concern. If we can fix the place up as we go along, that's fantastic. A little bit proud of where we were, make it better. So just, if you will, please be patient and give us a chance to make things better.
Keep making progress.
Yeah, if I can, one other comment.
Sure.
Mr. Waterman and I are also on the same page, and trying to get as much information as we can as to something that might help us pinpoint how or why a particular injury occurs or when it occurs. And him and I communicate back and forth, so hopefully we will be able to provide some good information on injuries as well going forward in the future.
Good. That's the,
Okay.
that's the most important.
Question? Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Vince, you have anything to report on Turf Paradise?
Just briefly.
Okay.
For the record, Vincent Francia, General Manager of Turf Paradise. Early this morning, the first of the horses arrived for what will be the 60th race meet. The 21st of this month, the track opens for training. October 17th is when the race meet will open. Juan Estrada, the safety steward, touched on many of the safety corrections that we've made during the summer. It's been very busy. That's really the tip of the iceberg. Best way to see them is to come out to the racetrack, because we've done a lot of capital improvements this summer, both in the stable area and the main facility.
Okay. Thank you. All right. The Optional Industry Stakeholder Association updates. Arizona Greyhound Association. Any updates? Arizona Quarter Horse Racing.
Nothing to report.
HBPA.
Nothing to report.
The Jockeys Guild. I don't think they're here today.
You skipped number C, or letter C. D.
Oh.
Arizona Breeders.
Sorry, Kevin. Kevin's used to it.
Nothing to report.
Oh, okay.
Summary of current events affecting the Arizona Racing Commission. Only commission members and the director may report. So, we got anything affecting us, Director?
Well, the only thing coming up is a sunset review, and that I think it's coming up around October.
Okay. And are there any matters that need to be identified to be placed on future agendas other than matters we've already talked about?
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
Just really quickly, can we go back to the first one there? I have just one general, very quick comment.
Okay.
That is that I'm nothing less than extremely concerned about the safety reports at Greyhound Park, and also the report related to the lack of maintenance and the improvements that need to be made at Turf Paradise. And I want to make sure that those stay in front of us on the upcoming agendas, and that we are notified as those improvements are made, so that all those issues can be corrected, especially in time before the racing season begins. Thanks.
Okay, Bill, thank you. That's noted. Any matters that need to be placed on future agendas? The last item is call to the public. And the only name I have is Mr. Grossman, and did you, okay. So, with that, the next regular meeting of the Arizona Racing Commission will be held Thursday, October the 8th at 10 a.m. in this conference room. And the meeting is adjourned.
12:02.